My fiancée told me, my bachelorette party will be a 2-week trip through Europe with my ex. I don't want you to act like a control freak. I replied, enjoy your flight. Then I cancelled the wedding, used the deposit to hire a private investigator, and served her with a lawsuit at the airport gate the moment she landed. My name is Santiago, I'm 31 years old, and a couple of months ago, I thought my life was all figured out. I was engaged to Daniela, 28, a woman I met at a party 3 years ago. She was pure fire, fun, spontaneous, with a smile that made you forget the world. I, on the other hand, am calmer, a data analyst, always the type to think everything through twice. We were different, but we fit, or so I believed. We had been planning the wedding for a year, with a venue booked for $8,500, invitations ready, and a ton of details that had me running from one place to another. Everything seemed perfect until Daniela dropped the bomb. It was a Tuesday night after an exhausting day at work. I got to the apartment we shared, and Daniela was in the kitchen with a coffee in her hand and that nervous energy she sometimes got. She told me she wanted to talk about her bachelorette party. I thought it would be something simple, a night out with her friends, but no. Santi, I've already decided. I'm going to Europe for 2 weeks with my friends. Paris, Rome, maybe Barcelona. It's going to be incredible, she said with a smile that didn't quite sit right with me. Sounds good. Who's going? I asked as I sat on the couch. She hesitated for a second, which was rare for her, and then blurted it out. Sofia, Laura, Camila. And Andres. Andres, her ex-boyfriend, the guy she was with for 2 years before me and whom she always talked about with a tone I didn't like. I tried not to react immediately, but inside, my stomach turned. Andres, your ex, I said, trying to stay calm. She rolled her eyes and set her cup down with a sharp clink. Yes, Andres is a friend of the group. Santi, it's not a big deal. We're adults. Okay, don't be so dramatic. Dramatic? Daniela, it's your bachelorette party. Don't you think it's weird to go away for 2 weeks with your ex? I responded, feeling the conversation slipping away from me. Oh, please, are you going to get all controlling now? This is my party, my moment. I'm not going to let you make me feel bad for wanting to have fun. Her words hit me hard. It wasn't just that Andres was part of the plan, but how she defended it, as if I were the problem for even asking. I tried to talk it out calmly, but she cut everything off with a relax or don't be so paranoid. I didn't sleep that night. Something didn't add up. It wasn't just jealousy, it was her attitude, as if she were hiding something. The following days were tense. Daniela talked about the trip as if nothing was wrong, but she never gave details. Every time I brought it up, she dodged me or accused me of not trusting her. One morning, while she was in the shower, I checked her phone. I'm not proud of it, but I needed to know. In a chat with Sofia, her best friend, I told Santi about the trip. He got weird, but I handled it. I don't want him getting in the way. That message was like a punch to the gut. What was it that she didn't want me to know? I'm not the type to sit back and do nothing, so I made a decision. I called the wedding venue and canceled the reservation. I lost about $200 in penalties, but I got back $8,300. With that money, I did something I never thought I would do, I hired a private investigator. His name was Marcos, a serious guy in his 50s recommended by a friend. I told him everything, straight to the point. I didn't want to spy on Daniela out of jealousy, but to know the truth before I got married. Marcos charged me $6,000 to follow her in Europe and send me reports. I accepted without much thought. The day Daniela left, she gave me a quick kiss and said, "I'm going to miss you, Santi. Don't worry, I'll write to you every day." "Enjoy your flight," I replied with a smile that hid the knot in my stomach. That night, while she was flying to Paris, Marcos sent me the first report. Daniela and Andres had booked a double room in a boutique hotel, separate from the rest of the group. The reservations were made weeks before she even told me about the trip. This wasn't a coincidence, it was planned. Then came the photos, the two of them walking through Paris, laughing, holding hands. No sign of Sophia, Laura, or Camila. Just Daniela and Andres, as if they were on a date. With each passing day, Marcos's reports got worse. Romantic dinners, strolls along the Seine, a photo of them kissing on a bridge. All while Daniela was sending me empty messages like, "Everything's incredible, I miss you." Every word from her was another lie, and every lie made me feel like more of an idiot for ever trusting her. I decided not to confront her yet. I wanted irrefutable proof, something she couldn't deny. I continued dismantling the wedding. I cancelled the photographer, the DJ, the catering. I lost some deposits, but I recovered $14,000 of the $32,000 we had spent. I discovered that Daniela had used $4,000 from our joint wedding fund to pay for part of her trip. That money was for our future, not for her to go on an adventure with her ex. I talked to a lawyer friend and prepared a civil lawsuit for fraud. It wasn't just about the money, it was for everything she had put me through. I planned everything for when she returned. I would be waiting for her at the airport, not with a hug, but with the lawsuit and the truth to her face. I wasn't going to let her get away with it. The days Daniela was in Europe felt eternal. Every morning I woke up to a new email from Marcos, the private investigator, and every email was like a hammer blow. More photos, more proof. Daniela and Andres at a cafe in Rome, laughing as if the world was theirs. Another of them in a bar in Barcelona, his arm around her waist. She kept sending me vague messages. "Paris is amazing," or "The girls and I are exhausted from all the walking." Not a single word about Andres. Of course, every message from her made my blood boil, but it also gave me more strength to follow through with my plan. I wasn't just dealing with the betrayal, I also had to manage the wedding cancellations. Calling the vendors was a headache. The florist asked me 1,000 questions as if I had to justify myself. The caterer tried to convince me not to cancel, saying I could keep the deposit for a future event. A future event? No, thanks. In the end, I managed to get most of the money back, though I lost about $3,000 in non-refundable deposits. Every time I signed for a refund, I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. I was cutting ties with a life I no longer wanted. The hardest part was talking to my family and friends. I didn't want to tell them everything, not yet, but I needed to explain why the wedding was off. My mom, who adored Daniela, didn't understand at all. "What happened, Santi? Why did you cancel everything?" she asked me over the phone with that voice she used when she suspected something was wrong. "It's complicated, Mom. Just trust me." "Yes, I'll tell you eventually," I replied, dodging the topic. My best friend, Lucas, was more direct. I invited him for a beer and told him a summarized version. Daniela went on a trip with her ex. I hired an investigator, and things aren't looking good. Lucas, who was never a fan of Daniela, simply raised his glass and said, "You did the right thing, brother. Better now than later." That gave me some peace. But the truth is, I wasn't at peace. I was furious, hurt, and at the same time, strangely calm. I knew what I was going to do, and that kept me focused. Marcos kept sending reports, each one more incriminating than the last. He discovered that Daniela and Andres not only shared a room but had made reservations at expensive restaurants months in advance. He also found an email where Daniela told Andres, "Santi doesn't suspect a thing. This will be our little secret." Reading that felt like the air was being sucked out of me, but instead of breaking me, it gave me more clarity. I was not going to be the idiot who married someone who played games like that. Meanwhile, I prepared the lawsuit with my lawyer friend, Esteban. He explained that claiming the $4,000 Daniela had taken from the wedding fund wouldn't be easy, but we had a solid case. The money was in a joint account explicitly designated for wedding expenses. For her to use it to finance her trip with Andres was, according to Esteban, a form of fraud. We drafted the documents, and every word we put on paper made me feel like I was reclaiming a piece of my dignity. "Are you sure you want to take it this far?" Esteban asked me one afternoon as we reviewed the papers in his office. "Completely," I replied. "It's not just about the money, it's about everything she did to me." He nodded and said no more. I guess he understood it wasn't just a legal matter, but a personal one. The days passed, and Daniela continued with her empty messages. One night, she sent me a photo of herself in front of the Colosseum, smiling, with a text that said, "This is incredible. I love you." I had to restrain myself from replying with something sarcastic. Instead, I just put, "That's great, enjoy," and went on with my life, or what was left of it. Because even though I wouldn't admit it out loud, this was destroying me. It wasn't just the betrayal, it was realizing that the person I loved, the one I thought would be my partner forever, didn't exist. The Daniela I knew was a lie. Marcos called me one night, a week before Daniela's return. His voice was serious as always, but this time there was something more. "Santiago, I have something you need to see. I'm sending it to you now." I opened the email on my laptop, and there it was, a short video, filmed from a distance, of Daniela and Andres in a park in Barcelona. They were kissing not like friends, not like something casual. It was a kiss that left no room for doubt. I felt my world collapse, but at the same time, it was as if a final piece fell into place. There was no more space for doubt. Daniela was cheating on me, and she had planned it all from the beginning. "Thanks, Marcos," I said with the steadiest voice I could manage. "What are you going to do now?" he asked. "Finish this," I replied, and hung up. I spent the last days before her return finalizing the details. Esteban finished the lawsuit papers, and I made sure to have copies of all the evidence, photos, videos, emails, hotel reservations. Everything was ready. I spoke with the landlord of our apartment and told him I would be moving out soon. I wasn't going to keep living in a place filled with memories of Daniela. I also started looking for a new place, something small, just for me. It was strange planning a future without her, but at the same time, I felt a freedom I hadn't felt in months. The day Daniela returned, I woke up early. I didn't sleep much, but I wasn't nervous. I was ready. I went to the airport with Esteban, who insisted on accompanying me to make sure everything went smoothly. I carried a folder with the evidence and the lawsuit, all organized. While I waited in the arrivals area, I watched people coming off the flight from Barcelona. Families, couples, tourists. And then I saw her. Daniela, with her carry-on suitcase, smiling as if she didn't have a single worry in the world. Andres was next to her, carrying a backpack. She didn't see me at first, but when she did, her smile vanished. "Santi, what are you doing here?" she asked, approaching with quick steps. Andres stayed behind as if he knew he shouldn't get involved. "I wanted to welcome you back," I said, in a cold tone I didn't recognize as my own. I held out the folder with the lawsuit. "This is for you." She frowned and took the folder, confused. When she opened the first documents and saw the words, "Civil lawsuit for fraud," her face changed. It went from confusion to something that looked like panic. "What is this, Santiago? Are you crazy?" she said, raising her voice. "Read it, and then look at the photos." "It's all in there," I replied without moving. She glanced through the folder, and when she got to the photos of her and Andres, she fell silent. For the first time, she didn't have a quick comeback or an excuse. Andres approached, but before he could say anything, Esteban stepped between us. "I suggest you don't make a scene," Esteban told him with that calm lawyerly demeanor that commands respect. Daniela looked at me, her eyes glistening as if she was about to cry. "Santi, can we talk about this?" "It's not what it looks like," she stammered. There's nothing to talk about. We're done, I said and turned around. As I walked towards the exit with Esteban by my side, I felt a mix of relief and emptiness. I had taken the first step, but this wasn't over. Daniela would try to defend herself, to justify the unjustifiable, and I had to be ready for whatever came next. In the airport parking lot, Esteban patted me on the shoulder. You did the right thing, Santi. This isn't going to be easy, but you have the upper hand, he said as we got into his car. The upper hand? I asked, looking out the window as the airport faded away. The evidence is irrefutable. She has no way out of this, he replied with that loyally confidence that made me feel that, at least on the legal side, I was covered. The following days were a whirlwind. Daniela bombarded me with messages and calls. At first, she tried to explain herself. It's not what it looks like, Santi. We were just hanging out as friends. Then, when she saw I wasn't responding, her tone changed to pleading. Please, let's talk. Don't throw everything away. Finally, she turned to anger. A lawsuit? Seriously? You're pathetic. I blocked her number after that. I had no energy to listen to more lies. My friends and family found out little by little. Lucas, my best friend, was the first to know the details. I told him everything one night at his house, a beer in my hand. When I finished, he just shook his head. What a mess, brother. But you saved yourself. Imagine being married to someone like that. My mom was harder. She still loved Daniela, and when I told her the truth, she was silent for a long time. In the end, she just said, Son, you deserve someone who values you. This hurts now, but you'll be better off. Her words helped, but they didn't erase the pain. It wasn't just the betrayal, it was realizing that I had invested 3 years in a relationship with someone who wasn't who she claimed to be. At night, when I couldn't sleep, I wondered how I didn't see it coming, how I missed the signs. But then I remembered the photos, the emails, the proof. Daniela had planned everything carefully. It wasn't my fault. The lawsuit process moved quickly. Esteban kept me updated every step of the way. Daniela hired a lawyer, a guy who seemed more interested in dragging out the case than in defending her. In a mediation meeting, she tried to justify using the $4,000 from the wedding fund, saying they were personal expenses because she was stressed with the preparations. Her lawyer could barely look me in the eye as she spoke. Esteban presented the evidence, travel receipts, emails where Daniela told Andres she had used our money, and the photos that showed her bachelorette party was anything but. The mediator, an older man with a tired face, gave Daniela a look that said it all. She fell silent, her face red. In the end, she agreed to pay back the $4,000 in installments. It wasn't just about the money, it was about the principle. I wanted her to feel the consequences of her decisions. Esteban told me I could have gone for more, but I just wanted to close that chapter. We signed the agreement, and with that, Daniela was officially out of my life. But not everything was that simple. Our mutual friends were divided. Some, like Sophia and Laura, the friends from the trip, took her side. I found out through Lucas that they knew about Daniela and Andres from the beginning and covered for them. That hurt because I always considered them my friends too. Others, like Camila, wrote to me to apologize. She said she knew nothing about Daniela's plan and felt betrayed herself. I don't know if I believed her, but I appreciated the gesture. In the end, I cut contact with almost everyone from that group. I didn't need people like that in my life. The following weeks were strange. I moved into a new apartment, a small place, but it was mine. I spent a lot of time alone, reorganizing my head. I started going to the gym more often, something I had neglected because of the wedding. I also returned to hobbies I had set aside, like playing the guitar. Little by little, I felt like I was recovering pieces of myself. But I'm not going to lie, there were nights when the emptiness returned. I thought about Daniela, about how everything collapsed so quickly. I wondered if she was ever sincere with me. One day, about 2 months after the airport incident, I received an unexpected email. It was from Daniela. I don't know how I hadn't blocked her email, but there it was. It wasn't a plea or an excuse, it was an apology. She said she had realized what she had lost, that Andres wasn't who she thought he was, and that she regretted everything. She ended by saying she had moved back in with her parents and was trying to rebuild her life. I didn't reply. Not because I was angry, but because I no longer cared. Her life, her decisions, were no longer my problem. By chance, or maybe not, I met someone new a few weeks later. Her name is Valeria, she's 30, and I met her at a work event. She's not like Daniela, she's calmer, more direct, no drama. We've been out a few times, and although it's too early to say where this is going, she makes me laugh. She makes me feel like I can trust again, though I'm proceeding with caution. I don't want to repeat the same mistakes. Looking back, I don't regret anything. Canceling the wedding, hiring Marcos, the lawsuit at the airport, it was all necessary. I not only saved myself from a marriage that would have been a disaster, but I learned to set boundaries, to not let anyone walk all over me. Daniela faced the consequences of her actions. I heard through a friend that her social circle shrank considerably and that Andres left her shortly after the trip. I don't feel satisfaction about that, but I don't feel pity either. You reap what you sow. Now, as I write this, I'm in my new apartment with a cup of coffee and the sun streaming through the window. Life isn't perfect, but it's mine. And for the first time in a long time, I feel like I'm on the right path. If anyone is going through something similar, my advice is simple: trust your gut. If something doesn't feel right, don't ignore it.